Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the world of supply chains. We're going to break down how you can actually master their performance by looking at the crucial metrics and the essential tools that really drive success.
And this simple truth right here, it's really at the heart of everything we're talking about. Getting your supply chain right isn't just one department's job. It's the backbone of how a company creates value. If you nail it, you thrive. But if you get it wrong, well, the whole system can come crashing down.
All right, so to really get our arms around this, we've got a clear roadmap. First, we'll lay out the blueprint for understanding the whole system. Then, we'll build a performance dashboard to see how it's actually doing. After that, we'll open up the toolbox and look at some essential management techniques, figure out how to get true visibility, and finally, we'll peek into the future at the tech that's changing everything. Okay, first things first. You can't fix something if you don't understand how it works, right? It's like a doctor needing to understand the human body before they can diagnose an illness. We need a framework, a map, for the incredibly complex organism that is a supply chain.
And the go-to framework for this, the one pretty much everyone in the industry uses, is called the SCOR model. The best way to think about it is like a universal language for supply chains. It lets us map out, measure, and even compare any kind of operation anywhere in the world.
And it all boils down to these 6 core processes. You plan, you source, you make, you deliver, and you handle returns. And then you have the enable functions, like IT and HR, that kind of hold the whole thing together. These are the universal building blocks. You can literally use them to map out any business, from your local pizza shop all the way up to a global car manufacturer. It gives us a really clear, standard way to see the entire system.
So, we've got our blueprint. We have the map. But how do we know if the system is running well? I mean, a map isn't much good if you don't know where you are on it. That's where the performance dashboard comes in. It's how we measure success and figure out where the problems are.
And this is where things get really interesting, because right away you see this natural tension. The sales team, they want warehouses packed to the gills with products, so they never ever have to tell a customer, sorry, we're out of stock. But the operations team, they want the exact opposite. They want minimal inventory to keep storage costs and waste way down. And here's the thing, they're both right, but their goals are in total conflict.
So how do you get these two teams to play nice? Well, that's where something called a balanced scorecard comes in. Instead of everyone just looking at their own little piece of the puzzle, you track KPIs, key performance indicators across the board. You look at profitability, customer service, inventory, the whole shebang. It forces everyone to see the trade-offs and finally agree on one single shared strategy.
Okay, let's make this real with a classic supply chain puzzle. Your supplier calls and says, hey, I'll knock 20% off the price of this part if you buy your entire year's worth right now. On the surface, that sounds like an absolute no-brainer, right? Cheaper is better. But is it really a good deal for the whole system?
To get the real answer, you can't just look at the purchase price. You have to calculate what's called the total cost to serve. This means you add in the cost of shipping, warehousing, insurance, all of it. So in our current setup, even though we pay $5 per widget, the actual cost to our business is $5.56.
Okay, now let's run the numbers on that big bulk buy deal. Yeah, our inventory holding costs are going to go way up, but that huge price drop is so significant that it brings our new total cost down to just $4.42 per widget. That's a saving of over $56,000 a year. The deal is definitely a go. And that's the crucial takeaway here. If you were only looking at one thing, like keeping inventory costs low, you would have said no way to a deal that actually saves the company a ton of money. True performance isn't about perfecting one little number. It's about seeing the whole picture to optimize the entire system. All right, so our dashboard is telling us what's happening. Now we need the toolkit to actually do something about it, to manage those trade-offs and handle all the risks we're uncovering.
And here are 3 absolute must-have tools. First, S&OP, or Sales and Operations Planning. That's the process you use to fix that internal conflict between sales and ops we just talked about. Second, VMI, or Vendor Managed Inventory. That's a tool for working better with your partners by letting a trusted supplier manage their own inventory at your site. And third, Risk Registers. This is your shield, a formal way to prepare for all the uncertainty out there.
Now I want to be clear, a risk register isn't some dusty spreadsheet you fill out once and forget about. No way. It's a living, breathing management process. You use a system like this one to brainstorm what could go wrong, figure out how bad it could be, and then make a concrete plan for how you're going to respond. It's what moves you from being reactive to being truly prepared.
But here's the catch. All these tools, all these fancy metrics, they're completely useless without one thing: high-quality information. And in today's messy, global network, just getting a clear, real-time view of your entire supply chain is, frankly, one of the biggest challenges there is.
The modern solution for this is something called a supply chain control tower. The name is perfect. Think of it like an air traffic control tower for your business, but instead of planes, it's tracking all your products. It pulls in data from your suppliers, your shippers, your own warehouses, everything into one single, central dashboard.
Of course, saying you need a control tower is one thing. Actually building one is a whole other challenge. You have to climb over 3 huge hurdles. First, just getting access to data that's stuck in a dozen different systems. Second, dealing with all the errors and gaps in that data. And third, latency, closing the gap between when something happens and when you actually find out about it.
Okay, let's wrap up by looking at the really exciting stuff, the advanced tech that's supercharging these control towers and completely changing what's even possible in a supply chain.
We're talking about 4 key technologies that are just driving this massive shift. You've got AI making smarter, automated decisions. You've got the Internet of Things, or IoT, giving you real-time data from trucks and pallets. You have automation with robots in the warehouse. And then you have blockchain, which is creating a whole new level of trust.
Let's just double-click on blockchain for a second, because it's a big one. At its core, it's really just a shared digital notebook. And here's the magic. Once a transaction, like a shipment leaving a factory, gets written down in that notebook, it can never, ever be changed or deleted. It's there forever, and everyone who's supposed to see it can.
And its promise is huge. It's all about solving 3 of the biggest headaches in any supply chain: visibility, knowing your data is accurate, and just plain old trust. Imagine replacing all that messy paperwork and all those back-and-forth emails with one single, undisputed source of truth. That's what blockchain can do. It can wipe out costly errors and build rock-solid trust between partners who might be on opposite sides of the world.
Because at the end of the day, managing a supply chain isn't a project with an end date. It's a continuous journey. The tools are always changing, technology is evolving, and what customers want is always changing too. So the real question isn't whether you've arrived. The question you have to ask is this: are your systems and your tools agile enough to take tomorrow's disruptions and turn them into your next big advantage?